Fake news media back at it again. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about this ridiculous story about Poland, Ukraine, and Russia. Now, initially, the AP reported that Russian missiles had crossed over into Poland from Ukraine and killed 2 people. So the main story was, okay, now Russia's attacking Poland. They've escalated the whole situation. Now we're on the brink of World War III. That was the initial story, right? And we had been hearing this could happen for a while. They're saying, oh, well, Russia, they're attacking Ukraine. It's only a matter of time before they attack Poland, and they go into Germany, and they go to Austria and everywhere else in Europe. Although in my mind, I'm like, okay, why would they do that? It's just about the dispute between Russia and Ukraine. Why would they go try to take Poland? It doesn't make any sense. But that story came out, I knew that it'd be a problem, but I knew there was more to the story, of course. And now we know that Russia did not actually hit Poland. Ukraine hit Poland by mistake because they said it was part of a quote unquote missile defense system. So they say Russia was attacking Ukraine, and Ukraine's missile defense system probably missed a target, meaning, if you don't know what I'm talking about, a missile defense system, at least the one that Ukraine may have, they may shoot a missile up in the air to try and intercept the other missile that's trying to attack them, to break it apart in the air, to divert it, or whatever the case may be. Now, apparently, this missile missed the mark or hit the mark, but then some of the debris fell in Poland, and the debris or the whole missile hit 2 people, killed them, made a big mess, turned some farm equipment over or whatever, So that is the actual story. Russia did not hit Poland. Russia was hitting Ukraine as normal, allegedly, and Ukraine fired a missile that went in to Poland. Now, let's look at your man Joe Biden talking about the whole situation. And right when he said this, I knew that the whole story was over, because he wouldn't say anything like this if they were talking about still trying to blame Russia. Let's go ahead and roll this, and I'll keep on talking after that.
The explosion in rural Poland near the Ukrainian border, and I'm going to make sure we figure out exactly what happened. Our sympathy goes out to apparently 2 people were killed, and then we're going to collectively determine our next step as we investigate and proceed. There was total unanimity among the folks at the table.
And by the way, just a note here. This is elder abuse at this point. I mean, come on, really. Let this man just go chill. Let him just stay in Delaware and don't come back to the presidency, because he's obviously not really equipped to do this. Okay, let anybody stand there. You can have Kamala, Nancy Pelosi. I don't even really care. They're not good people either, but come on, man. This is crazy.
We also discussed the latest series of Russian missile attacks, which are continuing the brutality and inhumanity that they've demonstrated throughout this war against Ukrainian cities and civilian infrastructures. And they've been totally unconscionable, what they're doing. Totally unconscionable. And the moment when the world had come together at the G20 to urge de-escalation, Russia continues to has chosen to escalate in Ukraine.
So he's reading from a sheet of paper right now. That's what it looks like he's doing. He's reading a statement. I mean, if he's not, then I can't tell. He keeps glancing down at some notes. So is this a statement? Are you doing an impromptu speech? What's happening right here?
While we're meeting, I mean, there were scores and scores of missile attacks into western Ukraine. We support Ukraine fully in this moment, and we have since the start of this conflict, we're going to continue to do whatever it takes to give them the capacity to defend themselves.
Mr. President, is it too early to say whether this missile was fired from Russia?
There is preliminary information that contests that. I don't want to say that till we completely investigate, but it is. It's unlikely in the minds of the trajectory that it was fired from Russia, but we'll see. We'll see.
It's unlikely.
So basically, he's saying it probably was not fired from Russia. In the minds of many, that's probably not what's going on. But he must have stopped short of actually saying that, because the narrative is still Russia, 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 blame Russia, no matter what. And even though we know now that the missile came from Ukraine and not Russia, and the Ukrainian missile is what killed 2 people in Poland. Well, it was a Russian missile, but you got to understand. Let's back up a little bit because, matter of fact, let me come out so you can see me clearly. They'll say a thing like, oh, it was a Russian missile. Well, okay, but who shot the missile? You see, they may have had a Russian missile from the old Soviet era, 70s and 80s, but it was not them who shot it. It was the Ukrainians who shot it. And a big part of the reason why it's a big deal if Russia were to hit Poland, if they did, which they didn't, a reason why that's a big deal is because Poland is part of EU, or pardon me, NATO. So if Russia hits a NATO state, then that means all NATO states are obligated to respond, which includes the U.S. That sparks World War III. Ukraine is not part of NATO. And I think a big part of the reason, if not the reason, why Russia is fighting Ukraine is to take them as a sovereign part of Russia so they don't become part of NATO. So you don't have NATO right there on their front door. You already have the Baltic states, if I'm not mistaken, that's part of NATO. That's bad enough. That's Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. It's right there by Russia, right on the border. Then you're going to have Ukraine. They'll take the Black Sea, all that kind of stuff. That's why they took Crimea, because Crimea is a military port right there in the Black Sea. See, Russia's not trying to be enclosed like that so they can become Iranified or Iraqified or Kuwaitified or anywhere like that, where they're trying to take the natural resources, because Russia's also a very big oil-producing nation. So they don't want to have that happen. I'm not trying to make excuses for Russia and all of that. I'm just saying this is what they are looking at. That's why they're attacking Ukraine, not to try and invade the entirety of Russia. But of course, you got to have a boogeyman, right? During the election cycle or any other time, you got to have a boogeyman, white Christian nation. Sure, let's make them be the boogeyman. Okay, trying to make Iran, Iraq, that's not really, trying to make them be the boogeyman is not really cool anymore, right? You're being racist against brown people, so you can't really do that. Islamophobic, brown people phobic, so let's go over here, make them be the villain. So you can't really say what's happening because it defeats the narrative, although the reality is that Ukraine is the one that fired the missile by mistake or whatever, and that killed 2 Russian people. Now, here's a question I got for you guys. Now, since Ukraine is not in NATO and they fired a missile that landed in a NATO country and killed 2 people who live in that NATO country, would NATO then respond to Ukraine because of that? I think not. Oh, it was an accident. But if Russia did it as an accident, then it wouldn't be seen that way, would it? Funny how that works, right? You got political enemies, not really about NATO or non-NATO. It's about political. It's about gang warfare at a certain point. It's about trying to control certain countries at a certain point. See, that's why I liked when Trump was in office, because this kind of thing didn't go on. These kind of games they're playing, these war games they're playing did not really happen. Do I have more here as far as the actual story? I think I pretty much got everything. The main thing I wanted to cover was that Associated Press came out and said that it was Russia that hit Ukraine. I mean, not Ukraine, but Poland, and they're trying to support World War III, when in reality, it was the media trying to support World War III. It was maybe even Ukraine themselves trying to support World War III. Ukraine should have come out right away and said, hey, it was a mistake. That was us. It wasn't Russia. We were trying to stop a Russian attack. That should have came out right away. And here's another thing. If the media can put this stuff out, well, let's back up a little bit. I'm going to get ahead of myself. If the media can go to Ukraine and do green screen interviews with the president, Vladimir Zelensky, they could do Vogue magazine covers. They could bring actors and whatnot, Hollywood celebrities out to Ukraine and do these photo ops and interviews and stuff like that. If they can do that, then why can't they just call somebody from Ukraine on the phone and be like, hey, what happened there? It's right on the border. So was that them trying to hit you? Was that you trying to hit them? Was that them trying to hit Poland? What's going on? They didn't do that. All they knew was that it was some old Soviet missiles. Oh, Russia did it. Let's run the story right now. So when you run that story, people believe it. And the retraction is seen less often than the initial story. Matter of fact, here's a retraction that they put up on the story. You see, right here, this was where the actual Poland, Russia, Ukraine story was on AP. Then they issue a retraction. Now, do you think this would get a lot of traction as the original story did? I think not. Okay, let's see what it says right here. In earlier versions of a story published on November the 15th, 2022, just yesterday, The Associated Press reported erroneously, based on information from a senior American intelligence official who spoke on condition of anonymity, that Russian missiles had crossed into Poland and killed 2 people. Now, see, they're playing games again. Remember what I said? They may be Russian missiles, but they're not fired by Russians, okay? Just like if I have a gun made in America, but it somehow winds up in Afghanistan for some reason, right? And an Afghan person shoots somebody from Europe, doesn't mean an American shot the European, or does that mean an Afghan shot a European with an American-made weapon? Let's just be clear with what we're saying here, and let's not try to use words to confuse people. But anyway, I digress. Subsequent reporting showed that the missiles were Russian-made, like I said, and most likely fired by Ukraine in defense against a Russian attack. Again, still trying to blame Russia, but really it was Ukraine. Really, it was more of a mistake, and it was not a direct attack. And like I said, if it was Russia that did this as a mistake, then it wouldn't be seen as a mistake. It'd be seen as a direct provocation against Poland for World War III. Although they've been very careful to not go into Poland, they've not gone anywhere else. They focus on Ukraine in a very singular fashion, singular way. Okay, and so are we on the other side of the conflict. We're focused on Ukraine as well. We're giving them billions of dollars at this point. It's like every other day, 400 million, 500 million, 100 trillion gazillion to Ukraine to fight a proxy war against Russia, to weaken them, to get, like I was saying, make them be more of a soft state, a puppet state, so they could be taken advantage of and manipulated. That's the whole thing. That's the whole game here. In the media, they're in on it. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How do you feel about what's going on here with Russia and Ukraine and Poland and the mainstream media? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys pretty much know where I'm at. This is just more BS from the mainstream media as per usual. Nothing has changed. We all know what the time it is. We know when we see stories like this, we got to be critical. We got to think, maybe that might not be accurate. Maybe what they're saying here could be seen a different kind of way. Maybe I'm being gaslit for a particular political purpose and not because of anything real. That's the way I see it. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.